This is called Everything and Nothing. Every so often, my path intersects with his. It would seem that other than the clothes on his back and the tattered shoes on his feet, he has nothing. No phone, no wallet, no car, no home. Stashed in the shadows, shoved into a milk crate is his sleeping bag, devoid of any padding, barely held together by whatever threading hasn't come loose. That's all he has, to provide any semblance of comfort and protection from the outside world, or so it would seem. Until he reaches out his hand for any paltry offering people are willing to offer him. Then you'll see the scars along his forearm, scattered yet somehow strategically placed, like constellations he followed that led him on a destructive path. The source of his pain is loss and suffering. And yet the only thing that has consistently brought him any peace, heroin. It's easy to pity him and others who lost their way because they lost everything in pursuit of poison. But I feel no pity. I feel envy. I've watched this man stand in a downpour, completely unfazed by how drenched he was. He staggered through mud just to get to $1 before the light turned green. I have canceled long anticipated plans with others at the slightest hint of rain, because I didn't want to be inconvenienced, and far too often seized the opportunity to reach for a scapegoat instead of a loved one. He makes his presence known to everyone who passes him. He stands as upright as the pain allows and tries to reach as many people as possible in the limited time between lights. His method may be as repetitive as the shifting of a typewriter, but he somehow finds a way to manifest hope at 75-second intervals. Meanwhile, I walk in and out of my job every day feeling completely invisible to my coworkers, avoiding confrontation and conversation whenever possible. He needs barely a minute to rejuvenate his spirit, but it takes me an entire weekend to muster the enthusiasm to restart my own seemingly endless cycle. Every day he wakes and leaves his pride behind as he makes his way to whatever intersection shows the greatest potential. He asks for so little from so many. Minuscule amounts of change. Leftover food that was destined to be disposed of anyway. He may have no job, but he works harder for a quarter than many have worked for a whole check. As he retreats from one of his rare opportunities to rest and restore, he dines on the scraps he scavenged. I have never savored a meal to the extent that he savors every morsel. I have held on to pride far too often and far too long. If I had a quarter for every time I lied to someone who genuinely asked me, "How are you?" I could buy that man 2 homes. I have gone days without food because I did not have the will to tell my loved ones that I was without. I have starved for love, affection, attention, yet never hinted of it to anyone that would have quickly freed me of the pain. He literally wears his heartache on his sleeve, and I use my entire house to conceal mine. When the sun has set and the traffic is faded. He scouts a discreet and hidden piece of pavement to lay his bed and rest his head. His self-prescribed serum has justified its expense for the day. The nightmare of his daily routine comes to a close as he zips up his sleeping bag and melts into the ground. I can control the temperature of my home, change my bedding to whatever color caters to my current mood. The high cost of my mattress came with a guarantee of comfort, yet despite all those accommodations and control, I have to drag myself to bed night after night. I seldom rest peacefully. I find myself stalling the end of one day because I don't want to wake into one that seems disturbingly unchanged the next. Different costume, same performance. He has no phone. I have a phone that seldom receives a call from a familiar and soothing voice. It is either used by strangers who want to make money off of me, or used by me to make money off of strangers. Constant pings that do more to distract me than allow me to be productive. A bill I pay, but the assumptions of those who call is that my phone is to serve their purposes. It is an invisible leash, dragging me from one person to the next. He has no wallet. My wallet is filled to the brim with rectangular pieces of plastic that do a better job of separating me from my finances than allowing me access to it. He need only look into his pocket to know how much money he has, whereas I have no idea how much debt I've accumulated. He has no car. I use my vehicle to either get to places that provide me the means to pay for it, or to get to places that will help me sustain my life long enough to cover my debts. I'm forced to live my life in a constant rush to get from one obligatory destination to the next. Though I do a fairly good job of getting there physically, I never seem to have the luxury of being anywhere mentally. I am either thinking about what I should have done where I was, or thinking about where I need to be going. I'm everywhere and nowhere. Each day, he gathers his belongings and relocates. I feel anchored by everything I own. Many people will walk over the strip of pavement he'll call home. I hardly ever have company come to mind. I don't think he even really wants all the things I have around me, but I want so badly to have the traits he has within him. He asks for change from everyone, and I change to accommodate everyone. He holds on to nothing. I can't let go of anything. He is free to go where he pleases. I feel chained by the need to please everyone. He moves through the pain. I am crippled simply by the fear of harm. He remains vigilant, determined, and uncompromising. He will do anything it takes to pursue his goal. He has parted ways with anything that has stood in his way. Thinking of what he's willing to do to get high makes me feel so fucking low. If only I loved anything as much as he loves heroin. If only I valued myself as much as he values his freedom. I have everything I thought I wanted, and I paid for it with everything I never knew I desperately